Hey everyone, welcome to this playthrough of the Knife of Dunwall DLC. So I just finished my playthrough of Dishonored 1, and I'm going to be approaching this pretty similarly. I am going to be attempting a Cleaner Hands Whisperways playthrough, which means I plan not to kill anyone and to never be detected. This also means I'll be completing a Redemptive Path playthrough because obviously I will be going for a low chaos run. I just felt it was important to play through these DLCs, especially considering the hype around Dishonored 2 and the question of just how Delilah managed to come back for the second game. So let's get started.
One more job shouldn't have mattered. I'd killed nobles before. You could float a whaling ship, and the high-born blood I've spilled. Another noble steps in to replace the last one. All equally corrupt. Why should an empress be different? But she was. I watched her bodyguard's face as they took him away. Dead eyes. I knew I'd pay for this one. Maybe I deserved to. A storm was coming that would shake apart everything I'd built.
No! Get away from her! Corvo! Mommy!
Alright, so one big difference between this playthrough and my Dishonored 1 playthrough will be that I'm going to let most of the cutscenes run, just because for Dishonored 1 I felt like there were a lot of cutscenes that it was just exposition and it didn't really matter to the plot, but for this game I feel that the cutscenes are a lot more concise and do a better job expressing plot points.
Daud, my old friend. It's been a long while, but you've got my interest again. How the years pass and the bodies fall. Did you know that there are only 8 like you in the world, bearing my mark? I'm here because you're right. The Empress was different. This time, you can't just fade away into the shadows. There will be consequences. Your story is close to ending, and even you can't escape it. But what ending will you make for yourself? I'm here to give you one last gift, Daud. It's a mystery. One that starts with a name. Delilah.
For 6 months, the city writhed and changed. For 6 months, I tried to forget what I'd done to the Empress and her little girl. But there was no forgetting. I needed to find my next move. But all I had was that name. Delilah. Who was she? A threat? Or an ally? Word came from my second-in-command, Billy Lurk. In a house built on secrets. Lurk was especially good at uncovering them. There was a ship called the Delilah that hunted whales for Bundry Rothwild. A former deckhand who'd made good. Now he owned a slaughterhouse, and he ran his workers like a prison gang. A ship named Delilah. It could be a coincidence, but it's not. In Dunwall, things are always tangled up like a bag of snakes.
Daud, you're here. I got bored, so I started without you. Turns out we're here on the perfect day. There's a strike at the plant, and it's no wonder. Rothwild runs this place like a prison. The stupid workers can't even get in without a time card. When the strike started, the butchers confiscated all the cards they could find. They've given the City Watch free rein to use force. If you ever wondered why I wanted out of the slums, here's your answer. There'll be other ways in, I'm sure of it. You don't mind if I tag along, right? Just to keep an old man safe. One last thing. I found something for you. I know you collect these. I'll be on the rooftops till you need me.
Alright, well thank you for the rune, Billy, but similarly to my Dishonored 1 playthrough, I decided for this particular run that I wasn't going to unlock any additional powers. Now there's no achievement in these DLCs for that sort of thing like there was in Dishonored 1 with the mostly Flesh and Steel achievement, but I just figured, you know what, might as well just do it as a sort of personal challenge. I am sure I'm going to regret that later, 100% sure, but, you know, for the time being, I was like, this is a good idea, I'm going to go through with it. So one important character that we were introduced to that wasn't featured in the main game is Daud's second-in-command, Billy Lurk, who happens to be a favorite of mine, which is why I let her cutscenes run.
I hope you die weeping, all of you.
So, basically there are several ways to get into the factory up ahead. You can either steal a time card from one of the imprisoned workers and go in through the front entrance. You can make your way around the left side and go past an arc pylon to enter through the sewers, or you can take the path that I'm taking, which is going to the right hand side and activating a hook which will send you in via a kind of rafter entrance. Definitely achievable with tier 1 blink. Most of the things in this particular level are, just because they assume, can you get 4 runes in this level? Maybe you can, but I think the assumption is that you won't have tier 2 blink until the second mission. So here I'm just checking, making sure no guards are coming. We should be good. I will apologize, I was a little bit fumbly playing through this. As you can see, like, I tried to hit the lever and it didn't go. That's because I had been playing a ton of Skyrim because the definitive edition had just come out, and basically I'd gotten used to the Skyrim controls where E was the button you press to like pick things up, whereas in this game F is the button you press to pick things up. So it took me a couple fumbles to re-remember the controls for this game. Alright, so we are making our way over to the roof entrance. So to get into the roof entrance, you need a tank of whale oil, so you can activate a lever which moves a chain for you to climb up. Now, if you have tier 2 agility and tier 2 blink, I believe you can double jump and then blink your way up to the platform, but seeing as I have neither of those things, I am going to have to do it ye good old-fashioned way with this tank of whale oil here. And I'm pretty much playing Ring Around the Rosie with this guy. I know that he's programmed to walk around these platforms in kind of a circular path, so I know that it's safe for me to go ahead and plug this in, but I also figured there was a good chance of him turning around, and I happened to be right, so I blinked on out of there. We caught a glimpse, but that was it, so all in all, pretty clean. There is a second butcher that can also walk around in this area, so just be aware if you do decide to take this one butcher out because he's causing you problems. There is a second one that will walk around and you may see the body if you don't hide it. I did find that this is the easiest way to get into the factory. The sewer path is also pretty decent, but it does involve going past an arc pylon, which you have to deactivate, so I just felt that this was less of a hassle.
Rothwild's got a stubborn reputation. I doubt asking nicely is going to work. We'll have to find a more persuasive means of getting what you want out of him. He's probably close
So in
to his
keeping
office.
of my rule with higher is better in this game, we're going to be sticking to the rafters up here.
Daud, I spotted a makeshift interrogation room in the meat locker. It might be useful to you, considering our mission here.
Alright, so at this point we can see Rothwild's office in the distance, so we know where we want to go. It's just a matter of getting across these beams here. I took it pretty slow because I was a little bit worried about falling, especially because it's kind of such a narrow path to take, but definitely by far the easiest. There are a lot of butchers patrolling the ground below, and since we don't want to be detected, this is definitely the best way for us. It's worth noting the whale off in the distance. There is a side quest where you can overload the machine that the whale is hooked up to and kill it. That will also get you the eye of the whale, which you can actually use to complete a Granny Rags recipe and get an extra rune. Since I'm not upgrading anything, I figured it would be kind of a waste, so I didn't bother. I did end up going into this little room here, just because I knew there were sleep darts in there. There's also a rune in the safe in the corner, but I believe you need the safe combo. I do know that if you purchase the favor earlier in the episode, someone will scratch the combo on the wall. But I don't actually know where the combo is, which is why I just left. So Rothwell is in this room and he is talking to a worker named Abigail Ames, and she is the one responsible for organizing the workers to protest Rothwild's methods.
Don't bother. You're not the first of his moles I've
Now,
got.
Abigail will give you a side mission where she asks you to blow up the factory. I choose not to do it simply because A, it's a high chaos action, and B, there's also a chance that in the explosion some of the workers will be killed, which means that it will count as you killing them. So since I didn't want to take her side mission, I didn't really talk to her. I just grabbed Rothwild and skedaddled on out of there. Luckily for us, it is pretty easy to navigate our way to the interrogation room. There is a service tunnel that goes right into that room, so we don't have to worry about dodging butchers or anything. I'm just checking to make sure no one's patrolling, and then I will make my way into the access hatch. It's worth mentioning the way that Daud's blink works is different than Corvo's, as I'm sure you've noticed. If we are standing still, time freezes and you are able to kind of aim your blink, but if you continue moving, then the blink doesn't pause and it functions similarly to Corvo's, but you have to be moving in order for it to work that way. Alright, here we are.
I'll make sure you get to enjoy this.
I did take a moment to pick up some supplies in the room. There were some arc mines, but I decided not to grab them just because, well, they kill people, and I didn't want that. But I did pick up that mana elixir.
What do you want to know that's worth crossing a man like me?
I want to know about a ship named Delilah. What's behind the name?
Choke on your own
Who is Delilah?
You know your world, I'll give you that. We can talk this out, like businessmen.
Why did you name it Delilah?
What do you care? And it wasn't me.
Who was the previous owner?
Barrister Timps, all right? He told me the story. Delilah was a woman he knew. Grew up working in the Dunwall Tower. And got kicked out, became a painter. Funny airs, like proud. She caught his eye, but it was worse than that. He couldn't think of anything else, just her. She whirled into his mind somehow. He built that ship for her, and a lot more. Gave her half his fortune. Then he got scared. Came to me afraid. A man like that, afraid. He wanted to dump the ship, and I needed a business partner, so we made a deal. And to change the name. Wish I'd done it.
I hope that was satisfying. Here's the room key, when you're ready to go. Sir, earlier I spotted crates bound for the most remote corner of the Empire. Might be worth stuffing him in one, just to tie things off. He doesn't seem the type to forgive, of course. Why go through all the trouble, when a blade to the neck would accomplish the same thing?
So there are actually two non-lethal options here. One is to put Rothwild in the crate, the other is just to leave him in the chair. Now, I chose to put him in the crate because if you do leave him in the chair, in the second mission, there are significantly more people wandering around the streets, specifically a group of butchers that are looking for revenge for their boss. So the room where the crate is in is actually, if you went out that door I paused by, just to the right. However, there is a group of 3 people that stand in the doorway to that room, and they will not move, even if you make noise, which I tried. I banged against the wall, I shot crossbow bolts, they just kind of stood there, and I don't know if they were glitched or what. The best way I figured to get past them was to throw some choke dust and then blink rapidly past them, and just hope that I could get to higher ground before they saw me, because the choke dust will put them on the highest alert meter. And then I realized, well, yeah, it's a little bit slower and it's definitely backtracking, but I could just go back the way I came, right? I wasn't 100% sure that I could make some of the blinks because I do only have tier 1 for the power, and also when you're carrying someone, you can't actually grab ledges, so it limits some of the mobility of blink. But I figured, you know what, it's worth a try, even though some of the places we have to get to are pretty high. I bet that we can just manage it. So this was kind of the first challenging section, but if you just jump, you can make it fairly easily. Up ahead is where my real concern was, because I didn't want to go on ground level. There are too many butchers walking around, so I really wanted to get back up to the rafters that I climbed in on. Now, normally I could make that because I could grab it, but I can't in this situation, so I just jumped, blinked, and then kept moving forward, and the momentum did carry me forward enough to get onto the platform. I was looking around here like, can I make this? I'm not entirely sure, but I guess I'm gonna try. And I can, actually. So then it was just a matter of taking my time, being slow, making sure I didn't fall, and just making my way back up to that little opening in the roof there. So yeah, this was one of the first points in the playthrough where I was like, man, I am an idiot. Why did I decide I was going to do this with just tier 1 blink and nothing else? Tier 2 blink would make my life so much easier, but it worked out okay, and it's definitely not the last point in this playthrough where I was like, man, I really want tier 2 blink. Okay, so there are the crates. I am going to make my way down carefully. I'm not saying that I fell, but I fell. So I decided not to do that again. Alright, and here are the voices of the 3 people I mentioned that would not move. So I actually take a moment here to go off to the side, not just to grab the bolts, which I'm going to need later, but to show you where they are. So for some reason, coming in through this room triggered the conversation, which means I'm sure they would start moving and patrolling. But when I came in through the other way, for some reason their conversation wasn't triggering, which meant they were not moving and they were just making my life really, really difficult. But it actually worked out pretty well to go the other way. So, you know, that's fine. It probably took a little longer, but these games do have glitches. They were in the original Dishonored. I'm sure they'll be in the sequel. You know, it's fine. People get stuck sometimes. Alright, so at this point, we have taken care of Rothwild. It's just a matter of getting back to the rendezvous point with Billy. But naturally, Billy has gone and gotten herself in a speck of trouble, and we gotta get her out of it, so I'm gonna make my way on over there. Be aware there is a guard that will patrol this section, so just keep an eye out for him. My plan is to get back to the utility box that I used to blink over the first time, but since we're blinking up this time instead of blinking down, I needed to get to a higher vantage point, so I jumped up to this roof here. And then from there, we could make our way over to the box, although I found that I had to move a little further forward. And then I was like, oh man, I'm gonna fall off the edge, but nailed it. From here, it's just a short blink over to Billy's location. So there are 3 overseers that have captured Billy, one of which has a music box, which means you can't use any of your powers. So I found the best way to deal with them, instead of using the sleep darts, was to use regular bolts to lure the 2 regular overseers away. which worked pretty well. I only had to use 3, I think. Yeah, there they go. So they're running away, and they will go to a building nearby and just stand there. Now the big issue was the music box overseer. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna jump down and take care of him, but I can't use my blink because he is currently cranking the little hand wheel on the music box. So I went, well, I'm gonna go around this way and sneak behind him. So what happened was, I did that, I knocked him out, and then basically I got a call and had to pause the game, and I was like, oh, that's ruined the flow of the game, so I'm just gonna reload my quick save. Well, when I did that, Billy jumped up here, even though the Overseer was still there grabbing the crank. I guess that the game got confused and was like, oh, the Overseer's taken care of. So, I mean, whatever. It was a glitch. It made my life easier. And I didn't have to take care of him a second time, and it just moved things along quicker. So that might be something that you could exploit in the future. If you do something like that, where you could just kill him and then reload, and then Billy would blink to you, and the game would be like, oh, you've never killed anyone, and you didn't have to take this guy out. So, I don't know. I'd be interested to see if I could recreate that. I'm just gonna wait for these two guys to walk past. I believe, actually, I think those are the two Overseers that we scared away, so they really went and searched for that sound, but didn't quite find it, did you guys? Alright, and we are officially done with this mission.
I'm still trying to figure out why you let the Empress's bodyguard go. And now Rothwild's snug in a box. What's got into you? Barrister Timsh lives up in the legal district. I know it pretty well. From what I hear, the Timsh family is practically at war with itself. Talk to his niece Talia if you can. I should probably tag along when you go. Crazy rich people are buying up a lot of that Sokolov security technology these days. Keeps the weepers and looters out. I might be useful.
Alright, so that is the first mission for the Knife of Dunwall finished. We're going to get our end of mission report soon, and you'll see that we never killed anyone and we were never detected. So, we did our job and we did it well. The next episode will be coming out soon, so keep an eye out.